Let's do something interesting today. Today, we're going to talk about greenhouse disasters. Godzilla isn't really much of a real-life concern, but things like snow load collapse, fire, hail, animal intrusions, produce thieves, and such can destroy your greenhouse. It seems like everything out there wants to destroy your business these days, and we can't let that happen to your greenhouse. So buckle up and get ready to see some greenhouse disasters. And just because this is simple tech, I'm going to tell you how you can possibly prevent them so you won't have a greenhouse disaster with your business. King Kong always beats Godzilla. Simple Tech, that's the name of this channel. And if you want to see more content like this, you got to hit like, thanks, and subscribe. Hitting the buttons like, thanks, and subscribe tells the YouTube algorithm that this is the kind of content you want to see more of. And by communicating that to YouTube, the algorithm will then suggest more content like this to you. So hit like, thanks, and subscribe, or YouTube is just going to suggest more controversial political videos to you, and that just angries up the blood. Fire. Probably the worst possible disaster that could happen to your greenhouse. Okay, there's explosions, but they usually end up in fire anyway. Fire can start from many places. If you heat from fire, that's probably the most likely place it started from. But then there's electrical, chemical, and even things like the sun acting on something like a magnifying glass that could cause the flames to burst out. Once a fire gets out of control, your crops are gone, and usually so is your greenhouse. I hope you had insurance, because that's the only hope of recovery after most large fires. Fire can be prevented by being diligent in some cases, but also sometimes stuff just happens, and that's just life. Let's hope this doesn't happen to you and pray for those unlucky souls that had to have gone through a fire disaster. I'm going to huff and puff and blow your greenhouse down. Wind is one of the most common disasters that can happen to a greenhouse these days. From strong gusts to tornadoes to hurricanes, wind is the enemy of a greenhouse, especially those greenhouses made from poly. It is possible to make a poly greenhouse wind resistant, but there's always a wind possible that can destroy most any structure. Having a greenhouse can prevent your plants from snapping in a big wind, so long as that wind doesn't destroy the greenhouse itself. Hail is like loading up the wind with ammunition and firing at you at high speed. Hail isn't just an enemy to poly, although poly might actually fare better in hail than other coverings because it has a bounce factor. Polycarbonate is susceptible to hail if the ice cubes are big enough, and hail is the absolute enemy of glass. With a glass greenhouse, it's not just the destruction of the greenhouse, but if you're inside when hail starts, get out now, as falling shards of sharp glass can cause huge personal injury or worse. If you're in an area that gets a lot of large hail, an air-blown poly greenhouse might be the best possible defense to nature totally destroying it. Floods can be horrific. Floods can carry your greenhouse away with all your crops inside. The best prevention for floods is to build on the highest ground possible, but sometimes even that isn't enough. A large flood will destroy your foundation, and once that's gone, the rest of your greenhouse is toast. At that point, the only option is to sail away on a rescue boat and rebuild later once the waters have receded. Anyone in an area that gets snow has to be aware of snow loads on the roof. One of the main reasons building codes exist is to ensure structures are strong enough to withstand snow loads from the big storms. Poly greenhouses are probably the most vulnerable to snow loads. And it's just a sheet of plastic trying to hold up hundreds, if not thousands of pounds of snow. Something has to give. Polycarbonate and glass greenhouses tend to do better in large snow loads, but there's a limit to everything. And even polycarbonate and glass greenhouses can collapse under the weight of a large snow load. The older your greenhouse is, the more prone it is to collapse. You can't expect something 20 or 30 years old to work as well as a new greenhouse in most cases, especially if you don't keep up with the maintenance. Wooden boards weaken in high humidity, and after 20 or 30 years, there often isn't anywhere near the strength left you had to begin with. I've seen many greenhouse frames crumble from the heat and humidity over the years. And it's something you have to keep in mind as you go forward with your indoor growing dreams. Ah, those cute little critters. Animals want in and nothing is going to stop them. Well, maybe not nothing, but some coverings like poly are susceptible to animal damage, and it's possible for animals like deer, raccoons, bears, rabbits, rats, mice, and a host of other creatures to break the outer barrier and come in and feast on your crops. Of course, the stronger you build your greenhouse, the less chance there is of an animal finding its way inside. And then there's security measures, which don't have to be deadly, but still effective, and sometimes they're just fun. The problem with thieves is they're often willing to do $1,000 worth of damage to steal $10 worth of stuff. Thieves don't just steal your crops, but they also go for your tools and equipment, much of which is often worth hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Theft can be a real problem depending upon where your greenhouse is located, and a security system against humans, not just animals, might just be essential if your area is prone to a lot of theft and a bad human element. Vandals are another human problem, and one that usually has no real logic or reason behind it. Some people are just jerks and want to destroy the property and work of others. Besides having a security system or a live security guard, there's not much one you can really do to prevent vandals. It's a serious problem in some urban areas where greenhouses could really change the economic outlook of the area and the people in it. But vandals drag down all your hard work and make progress and change extremely difficult. Probably the worst disaster to a greenhouse business is the local markets. If you can't sell your product, no money comes in, and eventually everything ends. Markets are affected by a lot of factors, most notably competitors. If you have a better product and can keep your customers happy, and since the produce is in fact food, which everyone needs to survive, most market problems for greenhouses aren't a huge issue once you get your business established and run a good business that keeps everyone happy. That's all I got for you today. I hope to see you in the next video. If you have any ideas for future videos I can explore, please post it in the comments below.